ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that. And right now, my dear friends, the story unfolding around Willow Kane is gripping me in a way that feels both familiar and brand new, like an old wound being gently reopened so it can finally heal, or perhaps so it can pull us all deeper into the shadows once more. You see, I remember Willow when she first arrived in town as this gentle, wide-eyed young woman, carrying the weight of a secret that no one should ever have to bear. She had fled the Dawn of Day cult, a place that stole her innocence and left scars that ran far deeper than any of us could have imagined at the time. Shiloh Archer, that smooth-talking charmer who turned out to be a monster in sheep's clothing, had controlled her life, her body, and her very soul for years. I watched her struggle, I cheered when she broke free, and I believed, like so many longtime viewers, that she had finally found peace with Chase and her beautiful children. But life in Port Charles is never that simple, is it? And lately, the writers have been skillfully reminding us that the past has a way of refusing to stay buried. Just a few days ago, in that powerful scene with Nina and Rick, my heart nearly stopped. Nina, ever the protective mother even after all the years of missed chances, sat down and laid out the horrors Willow endured at Shiloh's hands. She spoke of the abuse, the manipulation, the way that cult twisted a young girl's mind until she didn't know where her own thoughts ended and Shiloh's commands began. Nina is fighting for a legal defense rooted in battered woman syndrome, something that could shield Willow from the consequences of choices she's making right now, choices that have stunned even the most jaded among us. I found myself nodding along, because I've seen too many women in my own generation carry invisible burdens from men who claim to love them while stealing their freedom. Nina hiring Rick to stand beside Willow isn't just about courtrooms and technicalities. It's about acknowledging that the trauma from Dawn of Day is still alive, still whispering in Willow's ear, still shaping the woman she has become. And then Willow herself stepped into Nina's home and unleashed that passionate outburst about Jacinda Bracken. The way she vowed that her children would never be exposed to the kind of depravity she once knew, it sent chills down my spine. It wasn't just anger, it was an obsession taking hold again, a fierce, almost desperate need to protect what's hers at any cost. I've lived long enough to recognize when a character is being pulled back into the darkness of her history. Willow's past with Shiloh isn't fading. It's resurfacing like a tide that refuses to ebb. The writers keep dropping these hints Dawn of Day mentioned, not once, not twice, but repeatedly, and I can feel the heat building. This isn't random dialogue. This is the calm before a storm that could engulf the entire canvas. Now, I know some folks might wonder if Shiloh himself could truly return. After all, we saw him wheeled away in a body bag after that final confrontation with Sam. But in a show that has given us Luke and Laura's wedding, The Ice Princess, and more resurrections than I can count on both hands, death is rarely the end. I've been turning this over in my mind during my evening walks, and I keep coming back to the same thought. What if the man we think is Drew Kane is actually Shiloh wearing a new face and a carefully constructed life? The timing feels too perfect. Willow has been growing closer to him, trusting him, even while her own actions have become more controlling. If that twist lands, it would confirm the darkest fears about her past, while delivering the kind of jaw-dropping revelation that keeps us tuning in year after year. Or perhaps Ethan Lovett is the one carrying a secret identity, with the real Ethan held somewhere while Shiloh orchestrates chaos from the shadows. Either way, the possibility has me leaning forward in my chair, heart racing just a little faster than it should at my age. What fascinates me most is how this new obsession is wrapping itself around Willow like ivy on an old trellis. She isn't just remembering Dawn of Day, she's letting it define her present. The cult's influence, that constant undercurrent of control and fear, seems to be pushing her toward decisions that echo the very manipulation she once escaped. Nina's efforts to prepare a legal shield are born of love, yet they also highlight how fragile Willow's freedom truly is. One wrong move, one more reminder of Shiloh's reach, and she could find herself ensnared again, not by ropes or rituals this time, but by the lingering power of memory and the fear that history might repeat itself. And when the writers let Dawn of Day's name hang in the air like smoke after a fire, I feel the whole town of Port Charles holding its breath. The organization that once preyed on the vulnerable could be rising again, perhaps through a new disciple, a hidden follower like Delilah with her mysterious tattoo, or even through someone Willow trusts completely. The explosion of criminal echoes from Shiloh's legacy actions that once seemed buried are bubbling up with fresh intensity, and Willow stands right at the center, caught between protecting her family and being pulled back into the very web she fought to leave behind. I've seen storylines like this before, of course. I watched Brenda's struggles, Carly's battles, and so many others rise from the ashes of their pain. But this one feels different because it's personal, in a quiet, devastating way. Willow's children are at stake. Her marriage, her future, her very identity, they're all teetering on the edge of whatever the writers have planned. Will she break free and find true healing? Or will the obsession consume her and ripple outward until the whole Quartermain and Corinthos clans feel the aftershocks? I ask myself these questions every time the credits roll, and I smile because I know the answer is coming and it will be worth every minute of anticipation. The beauty of General Hospital after all these decades is that it never stops surprising us while still honoring the emotional truths that matter. Nina's fierce maternal love, Willow's quiet desperation, the lingering shadow of Shiloh's evil, they're all painted with such care that I feel as if I'm watching real lives unfold rather than actors on a soundstage. And that, my friends, is why I'll keep watching until they turn off the lights for good. The Dawn of Day story is heating up in ways that promise fireworks, revelations, and perhaps even redemption or ruin for Willow. I can't wait to see how it all plays out, and I know I'm not alone. So many of us longtime viewers are sitting in our living rooms right now, cups of coffee or tea in hand, hearts full of both worry and excitement, ready for whatever Port Charles throws at us next. Because in the end, that's what keeps this show alive in our hearts, the promise that even the darkest chapters can lead to the brightest dawns, or at least to stories we'll be talking about for years to come. We've already watched Willow's past with Dawn of Day bubble up again in such haunting ways. Nina's heartfelt talk with Rick about building a legal defense around the battered woman trauma Willow suffered at Shiloh's hands was so raw and real it brought tears to my eyes. Then Willow herself stormed into Nina's home, her voice trembling with that fierce, protective fire, as she swore her children would never touch the kind of darkness she once knew. Those repeated mentions of the cult aren't filler dialogue, they're deliberate sparks, and I've lived through enough storylines to recognize when the embers are being fanned into a full blaze. Willow's quiet obsession is growing, and it's pulling everyone around her into its orbit. But what has me truly captivated right now is how this old evil is stretching its fingers into new territory, and the latest developments have me whispering to myself, "Oh, honey, here we go." It seems Shiloh's shadow is about to bring Sasha back into the picture in a way that none of us expected. Sasha has always been one of those resilient souls who's fought her way through secrets and loss, and the thought of her being drawn back to Port Charles through Shiloh's lingering influence feels both heartbreaking and perfectly timed. Whether it's a direct pull from whatever remains of Dawn of Day, or a carefully orchestrated return that ties her past to the cult's unfinished business, Sasha's homecoming is going to ripple straight through the Quartermain and Corinthos families. I remember how Sasha found her strength before, and if Shiloh's reach is the reason she's stepping back into the light, it confirms something I've always believed. The past in Port Charles never truly dies. It just waits for the right moment to breathe again. At the same time, the story surrounding Ethan Lovett has taken on this deliciously uneasy edge that keeps me guessing. Ethan has returned with what looks like open arms, reconnecting with Christina, offering his help around Sunny's world, but I can't ignore the subtle shifts the writers are planting. There's a sense that Ethan's arrival isn't as straightforward as it appears, and the mounting clues point to a deeper, hidden relationship with Shiloh himself. Could Ethan be carrying out some final directive from the cult leader, or perhaps even standing in as a carefully placed ally in a larger scheme? The timing feels too precise, and the way his presence is weaving into the fabric of current events has me convinced we're watching the first threads of a much larger tapestry. I've seen enough twists over the decades to know when a character's loyalty is being tested in ways that could shatter everything we think we know. And right at the center of this gathering storm is Sunny, dear Sunny, who's being pushed toward a new kind of madness that has me both worried and utterly hooked. Sunny has faced more than his share of chaos in his life, but this latest adjustment feels different, deeper, more personal, and dangerously explosive. With Ethan potentially tied to Shiloh's orbit and Sasha's return stirring old wounds, Sunny is finding himself drawn into a web of uncertainty that's testing every ounce of his control. The risks he's taking, the decisions hanging in the balance, they're pulling him closer to the edge in a way that feels fresh and frightening all at once. I've watched Sunny weather storms that would break lesser men. Yet this new layer of pressure born from the very cult that once tormented Willow is proving that even the strongest among us can be driven to the brink when the past refuses to stay silent. What I love most about these developments is how they're building on everything we've already seen. The writers aren't simply recycling old pain. They're expanding it, letting Shiloh's legacy stretch farther than we imagined possible. Sasha's impending return, Ethan's complicated ties, and Sunny's spiraling tension are all feeding into the same fire that's been smoldering around Willow. It's creating this beautiful, breathless momentum where every episode leaves me counting the hours until the next one. Will Sasha arrive carrying secrets that could heal or destroy? Will Ethan's true allegiance turn the Corinthos family upside down? And how far will Sunny's new brand of turmoil carry him before someone steps in to pull him back? I ask myself these questions every single day, and that's the magic of General Hospital after all these years. The stories never stop evolving, never stop surprising, and they never forget the emotional truths that bind us to these characters. The heat is rising in Port Charles right now, my friends, and I, for one, am right here with my tea, my tissues, and my unwavering love for this show, ready for whatever explosive chapter comes next. Because when the writers weave the past and present together this skillfully, you just know the payoff is going to be something we'll be talking about for a long, long time. And I wouldn't miss a single minute of it.